There was one big question going into the Tour's big stage in the Pyrenees, and that was exactly how badly Cadel Evans was hurt after his stage 9 fall. Cadel wasn't saying. The closest he got to a comment was to submit his battered helmet and speed off, while the press corps checked to see if it might contain a black box flight recorder. But really, in the end, the lack of a public statement from the pre-race favourite didn't matter. He was about to undergo the public examination of stage 10. The last stage before the rest day was the toughest of the Tour to date, 156 kilometres from Pau up to Hautacam. Heading southeast out of Pau through the foothills of the Pyrenees, it was a gently inclined ramp to start with, then over a couple of third category climbs before the riders hit the first big test of the day, the Col du Tourmalet, topping out over 2,000 metres. And after 36 kilometres of descending to recover from that, came 14 more of steep road up to the finish at Hautacam. The first chance for his rivals to test Cadel Evans was the Tourmalet, but it was soon clear that Alejandro Valverde was in no state to. In fact, he dropped off the back of the yellow jersey group. The best represented team by far in the group was CSC, with Jens Voigt putting in the kind of spell at the front that can only come before a rest day.
Well, that man is worth twice his salary. I don't care what you say for a team, he's brilliant. But I saw Cadel Evans. That group is now down to just 20 riders. Denny Menchoff is still there, Evans is still there, the yellow jersey is still there. I think he's having a much better day than yesterday for Kim Kirken. This is the leader. He deserves his moment on top of the Col du Tourmalet, one of, if not the most famous climb in the history of the Tour de France. And Remy Di Gregorio sees the banner on Bastille Day and he storms the mountain.
Well, this is one of the legendary climbs of the Tour de France, first introduced into the Tour in 1910 to toughen up the race. It's certainly toughening up the race here in 2008, and Remy de Gregorio, Phil, gets himself 20 points, maximum points over the summit there, while at 6.5 minutes, Jens Voigt is putting everybody into difficulty. This man will not give up.
I find that amazing for Jens Voigt to do that.
Stijn de Volder is the next victim of Jens Voigt. Jens Voigt is stamping out an infernal pace on the front end of this main field. He is eliminating riders one by one, Phil, almost single-handedly.
But he is using the energy, of course, that will cause him to fall back on Hautacam, but he'll hope to have left there Sastre. We've seen Maxime Montfort also going for Cofidis. He's their climber now, and this rider here is Sitsu, who's done his best for the riders up front, for Kim Kirken in particular, but he's going back as well now. One by one, these riders are cracking big time. Astelosa in orange, he's also lagging off the back.
There's a lot of big names in serious difficulty here this afternoon. Now you can understand why we've not talked about Team CSC since the very first day of this bike race, because they've been planning, they've been waiting. They took the race Bible a week ago, Phil, and they said, right, forget about all of the fun we can have on the flat stages. We're going to come out and have some serious fun in the mountains. And I think, despite the fact that Jens Voigt is pulling himself inside out there, he's enjoying what he's doing to the Tour de France this afternoon.
This is the remnants of the breakaway. It's now spread across the Tourmalet, but they are still ahead of the battle for yellow. Just sat at the back here, Jeremy Roy. It's his teammate who's gone over the top in first place. Dupont is there as well, 103. Meanwhile, these long legs of Jens Voigt tapping out a rhythm that few riders seem to be able to hold.
One man is holding that grinding pace, and it was Denny Menchoff. He was right up alongside Jens Voigt there. He's a man who is very difficult to put into difficulty. He's a strong, tough rider from Russia, and he will stay right at the front end of this main field. Slipping to the back, Leonardo Pipoli there, the man who many people think this stage is lined up for here this afternoon.
We still have not caught a glimpse of Christian van der Velde, but he's there, he's right there, and so too is Kim Kirken. So the big three in the Tour have not been broken yet. Kirken, Evans, van der Velde are still there. At the start today, Schumacher was fourth. He's been dropped. And Menchop is there and up to fourth at the moment. Valverde has been dropped. He should get back on the descent. But a kilometre still to climb, Paul. He'll have to race hard.
191 there, just sitting in the back in front of the yellow jersey is Christian van der Velde. He started the day in third place in the overall classification, but Phil, This is a serious sorting out. We've had the first serious sorting out today. There is Frank Schleck a little bit further back in the red, white and blue. Team CSC have got hold of the front end of this race. Andy Schleck is here. There are 5 riders from CSC in this group. And don't forget, in front...
And only one working, and look at his face.
And one in front, who you must not forget, they've got Fabian Cancellara. And I think once we've gone over the summit of the Col de Tourmalet, he will become a member of this group. And they're going to hammer down the road to set us up for a very magnificent assault of the climb of hautacam.
But there are others still here. Peeply at the back is a great climber. They're inside a kilometre to the summit. They haven't lost any ground or time. Look at Cadel Evans, number 1. He's looked very, very smooth. Ricardo Rico is here, 191, the American sensation this year. Christian van der Velde, he's not in any trouble at all. Let's have a look at Kirken's face. He's concentrating. He's on a better day.
It's not showing any signs of emotion at all. It's just plain concentration. He knows what everybody's trying to do to him. He's just sitting there, sticking on the wheel of the man in front of him. There's the South African flag there, waving himself high for John Lee Augustin, who's a little bit further down the road. But Phil, this is a select group. Ricardo Rico is in this group, just sitting nice and closely to the front end. Watch out for the final climb of the day, because the last man in that group is Leonardo Pipoli. He's one of the smallest bike riders in the race, but one of the fastest climbers.
And the finish coming up is just like he likes, and I have to say it, just like Ricardo likes as well, or Ricardo Rico rather. But also in this very select group of 14 now, we have lost one man we never thought would be dropped, Alejandro Valverde. He's dropped about 1.5 kilometres from the top. They can get time on him. He may not get back on the descent before we start the last climb of the day. And that'll be every man for himself then, when Jens Voigt won't be there. Not the way he's ridden today. He has been absolutely magnificent. Look at this man, Paul.
You've got to love the style of Jens Voigt. He's all over that machine. You know, if you took him away from the sport of cycling and put him in any other sport, he'd be a boxer. So let's just have a quick resume of the riders in that group. Sitting in 3rd position there is Carlos Sastre, and that's why this work is being done here this afternoon by Team CSC. On the right shoulder of Sastre in the orange jersey is Denny Menchoff. There, a little bit further over there, you can see Christian van der Velde. This is further down the climb. Number 31 is the man expected to be the danger man today, and it's Alejandro Valverde. He is in all kinds of difficulties. If he can get over the top of the climb less than a minute behind, then he has always got the chance of reintegrating the group at the front. Number 4, Dario Cioni. Just check the faces of these riders now. They want to lift the pace once more. Van der Velde is still there with...
And here comes the man for the summit again. The Cobra is about to strike again.
Well, the Cobra is striking here for points. Let's not forget he was 3rd, Phil, in the King of the Mountains classification at the start of the day. And I'm not sure. It's a bit complicated to try and figure out how many riders are in front.
Paul, but really, I'm not sure myself anymore.
Well, a little bit further down the climb, this is the group of Alejandro Valverde. He has not enjoyed the Col de Tourmalet here this afternoon, but he mustn't give up. You know, you can have a bad day in the mountains in the Tour. It can all turn around the next day, and he has to remember that. He's got a rest day that he's facing up to tomorrow, but he's got to come back into the Pyrenees the day after that. And if he hasn't lost himself more than a minute, his descending skills should allow him to get back up to the group of the leaders.
Well, it was 8th place indeed, judging by the riders in front. Still in front are Dupont, Roy, Duque, the leader, of course, Di Gregorio. We've still got Cancellara. They're now going to rethink the strategy on the way down here to barren descent for a little while.
It's a long, sweeping descent to begin with, and as you can see, there is no safety net at all. It is a long way down this descent, around about 20 kilometres.
Well, we're chasing one man, and all of the pack are together except Valverde. 5:57 the gap.
Ahead of them lies the final climb up to hautacam. We're in the VIP section watching is Miguel Indurain. The race climbed hautacam in 1996 in what was expected to be the Great Spaniard's 6th consecutive Tour win. Instead, it turned out to be the climb on which he cracked and lost the race. Matt caught up with him and broached the subject gently.
Bueno, sí, aquel año en Les Arcs es donde perdí tiempo. Aquí intenté recuperar, pero ya no pude con el ritmo de los favoritos. Pero eso, de hautacam tengo recuerdos buenos del año 93 o 94, que llegué con Leblanc. Luego en el 96 un poco no tan buenos, ¿no? Entonces en esta puerta tengo un poco las dos situaciones.
Y Miguel, ¿está trabajando aquí el Tour de France o de visita con su familia?
No, de visita con la familia, tengo la familia, el hijo mayor, y luego también colaboro con el periódico español Marca, comentando el Tour y hablando un poco del ciclismo y cómo va este año el Tour de Francia.
Miguel, ¿cómo ve este Tour de France? ¿Quién va a ganar? ¿Dónde se va a decidir?
Bueno, pues es un Tour de Francia abierto, es un Tour de Francia difícil porque ha habido contrarrelos cortas, luego ha habido más media montaña, Macizo Central, ahora los Pirineos. Es un Tour difícil de pronosticar. También hay un cambio de generación, vienen corredores jóvenes nuevos, los Schleck, viene Cunego, vienen corredores nuevos al Tour de Francia y es un poco la lucha contra los nuevos y los de hace unos años.
When the CSC attack finally came, though, it wasn't team leader Carlos Sastre who went, but Frank Schleck. He was joined by two of Ricardo Rico's Saunia Duval teammates, Leonardo Piepoli and Juan Jose Cobo. Back down the climb, the yellow jersey group suddenly no longer contained the yellow jersey. Kim Kirken had cracked. There was going to be a new race leader. It was a question of whether it would be Frank Schleck or Cadel Evans, who was riding strongly in a group of 6 riders, also containing Denis Menchov and Carlos Sastre.
We are looking at the legs here of Cadel Evans and Denis Menchov in the centre. Carlos Sastre behind him, yesterday's winner Ricardo Rico. The gaps are there to be seen now, 1:58 to this group. The new leader of the Tour de France is up in the leaders. Frank Schleck, Cadel Evans is 1 second behind him in the overall. Kirken is losing his overall lead, but he is still going to live to fight again. These groups, when we see all the times tonight, Paul, may not be decisive except for Damiano Cunego and for Valverde.
Well, those guys are losing massive chunks, almost 2.5 minutes on the group of Evans and Menchov. Damiano Cunego has lost an awful lot of time here this afternoon, but I think the most interesting part of the race is at the front with the presence of Frank Schleck there, and that means if Frank Schleck can get himself the overall lead at the end of the day, they've still got a very good two-pronged attack to play, because Andy Schleckville is losing chunks of time as well, because he is actually behind Damiano Cunego on the road.
Which means that the white jersey could fall to Ricardo Rico now as the best young rider in this race. So all of a sudden he's become a leader of a competition, and he's not far off the leader in the King of the Mountains. That might well be his as well tonight on the top of hautacam. Double points here, remember.
Evans is suffering there, Phil. Don't forget, only 24 hours ago he was on the ground with a smashed bike and a ripped up elbow and a ripped up leg, and now he's trying to defend the possibility of staying at the top end of the overall classification. Currently, he's 9 seconds behind Frank Schleck in the overall classification, but that could all change in the final sprint up to the line, and Cadel knows that. This is the steep part of the climb here. It kicks in at around about 10%.
Well, Denis Menchov's now trying to drag a little bit more energy out of that body. 3 kilometers to go. Kirken still losing ground here. Frank Schleck is now behind the Italian tandem, and he's losing ground himself. He cannot contain the lifting of the pace here. Now he's gritting his teeth. He's just got to start dreaming of yellow and see if it inspires him, because he's close.
Well, the two riders from Saunia Duval Scott have got the acceleration coming up to the front here. Juan Jose Cobo is a great climber from Spain, and he's pacing his teammate behind him there, Leonardo Piepoli. Piepoli has been around, Phil, for an awful long time. You know, he's coming up to 36 years of age. He'll be 37 at the end of September, but he's a man who's won stages at the top of mountains in nearly all of the major Grand Tours.
Well, Juan Jose Cobo is 27 years of age, and you know he's only won one race, the Tour de Pays Basque last year, where he won a couple of stages. And now here he is taking Leonardo Piepoli out, and I don't know whether he'll move over, or whether people will say, no, you take it, you've done all the work. But we've seen this before in the Tour of Italy. Sonny Duval, I think, have twice done a 1-2 using exactly the same tactics with Pipoli.
Well, the Basque flags are out this afternoon. The orange jerseys are here to support the men from the Euskaltel-Euskadi team. But the great thing about the fans here, Phil, is they will support and cheer every bike rider on the slopes of this mountain. Frank Schleck is wondering whether or not he can hold on to the advantage he's pulled back on Cadel Evans' group this afternoon to possibly take the jersey. It is going to be very, very close, because Evans has lost at 2:03, but only on the two riders from Sonny Duval, not necessarily on the man here in the red, white and blue, the champion of Luxembourg.
Well, the clocks are going to tell all in 2 kilometres time now. Denny Menchoff is giving Cadel Evans a hand here. They're both on the defensive, remember. Sastre hasn't done much except follow. He's in 3rd place there. Christian van der Velde has been told by his team manager to use these riders and attack them as they approach the finish and steal a few seconds. We'll see.
We'll see if he can do that. He was looking for about 38 seconds on Cadel Evans at the start of the day. And we're looking now at this man, Kim Kierken. He's worn the yellow jersey with pride, but now he's completely and utterly on his own. He's on the defensive. He's trying to get himself to the top of this climb. Damiano Cunego seems to be riding himself back into this race. He's gone past Alejandro Valverde. I've got to appreciate this man, Phil, the little Italian there, because he will not give up.
Well, he might well get up to the yellow jersey, which you'd be surprised to see, but he could do. The two Sonny Duval Scott riders here are side by side now as they head up towards the summit. They will take the decision as to which one will win. We would expect Pipoli to be the elder man here to take it, but as they cut through, these boys will try to save seconds. The two riders in front aren't their concern yet. They want Frank Schleck.
That's the man that they're more concerned about, and I can still see that sitting in defence there in 3rd position is Carlos Sastre. Now look at Evans, Phil. He's now getting out of the saddle. He's now going to ride a solid individual time trial over these last kilometre and a half, because he realises at the end of the day is a yellow jersey. He wants it, he's been dreaming about it, and he will ride and not ask anybody else to help him.
Well, 1:33 is the gap. He's back here. That's Evans to Kierken. We haven't got the gap of Frank Schleck to Evans, which is what we really want now. Menchoff has helped him out again. Huge efforts by Evans. He does tend to have this ability to lift the pace in the closing couple of kilometres when he senses the finish.
Well,
we think, and it's unofficial, the gap is 1:50 to Schleck, which means Evans is back in yellow.
Well, it means they're in exactly the same time, so it's going to be a battle. It's really going to be who has got the energy to sprint to the line. At the start of the day, Frank Schleck was 1 minute and 56 seconds behind Kim Kierken, but 1 minute and 50 seconds behind Cadel Evans. And while that's all going on and those calculations are happening, the two riders from Sonny Duval Scott are going under the banner indicating 1 kilometre to go. And I have to say, Phil, I really don't know which one is going to win.
The judges will never accept a dead heat. The boys can hold hands, but they'll still split the front wheel on the line. They'd never accept a dead heat, so they will have to decide what they do. But they've got that wonderful decision to make now. Here is Frank Schleck riding to a 3rd place finish, but is he riding to a yellow jersey as well? He rides in the colours here of the champion of his country, Luxembourg, winning that race just before the Tour de France started, a week in fact before. Further down the slope, the clock is counting there, but it's on the leader. Flick of the arm from Menchoff, saying to Cadel Evans, come on through and set the pace. They're trying to keep the rhythm. These are the only two riders who have worked so far.
Well, Carlos Sastre is on the defensive. He's the teammate, of course, of Frank Schleck. Ricardo Rico in 4th position. He's on the defensive too, because he's got two riders in front about to win the stage. And I think just a little bit further back, you can just see that Christian van der Velde, he's happy to be in a position like this, because Christian van der Velde could very easily, Phil, be sitting in 2nd place in the overall standings tonight.
He's been absolutely outstanding, Christian. I think deep down in our hearts, we did not expect van der Velde to survive the mountains today, as he has done for 9 days. And yet he's not only survived them, he's been absolutely superb.
Well, I think Kobo has cracked here, so the answer to the question, Phil, is the winner of the stage is probably going to be Leonardo Pipoli. but Kobo is fighting his way back. And look at people, he's looking over his shoulder.
I think Leonardo waits for him, you know.
He is waiting for him. I think he wants to drag him up here. I think he may well know that we're on the border of Spain here, and at 500 metres to go, he may well assist the younger rider to get the victory. And wouldn't the Spanish crowd go absolutely ballistic here in France?
Well, this is what they want, and I wonder. Certainly Kobo deserves it. He's done a lot of work today, unselfish work. He was preparing the road all the time for Leonardo Pipoli to win. Pipoli looking over, can't find him now. He's right alongside him as they start for the finishing line. This is going to be a 1-2 for Sonia Duval-Scott. The question is, what is the order? The younger right, 140 is the gap. It could be Cadel Evans is looking good, but as these two race for the line, it is still which one is going to win.
Look at Pipoli's face here. He's been here many, many times before. Juan Jose Kobo is just happy to be in the company of this little Italian climber. They're making the final swing. 100 metres to go. Who's it going to be?
Well, Pipoli wants it. Kobo wants it. Are they going to have a free-for-all sprint? Sometimes the management says you fight it out yourself and whoever wins, wins. But there we are. He's as happy as Pipoli. Leonardo Pipoli wins a terrific stage of the Tour de France, and Juan Jose Kobo of Spain salutes his people in second place. The clock will start, though, when this man hits the line. Who will be the yellow jersey, Frank Schleck or Cadel Evans?
Well, what's important now is to watch the time when Frank Schleck stops the clock, because it doesn't matter how far behind those two guys who finished first and second are. It's whether or not he's more than a minute and 50 seconds ahead of Cadel Evans. And I got that at 25 or 26 seconds.
Well, now this is Bernard Cole coming up. He's been threatening to do a great ride ever since he ran over the team leader, Schleck, I can't think of his name anymore.
Bernard Cole.
Schumacher, down when he ran over him in the crash at Super Best. We're watching the clock now to see. He's got to finish 1:51 ahead of Cadel, right?
I didn't get the exact time that Frank Schleck crossed the line. It was either 25 or 26. Well, we're looking at 2:16, 2:17 is the time that Cadel Evans has to finish inside of if he wants to get himself the yellow jersey at the end of the stage. It's a long climb up there. You can see the clock telling us at around about 1 minute and 13 on the finishing line. And you can see Van der Velde has come to the front. He's trying to lift the pace a fraction now as he gets towards the line. The magic number, and I've only got it 2 seconds either way because we kind of missed the crossing of the line of Frank Schleck. It's between 2:15 and 2:17, but it's going to be very, very close at 400 metres to go.
Now, just on this last 350 metres, can Christian Van der Velde even steal a couple of seconds for himself? He could be second or third overall still. Cadel Evans is chasing him down. We're looking at 2:16. If it's outside that, then Evans has lost the yellow to Frank Schleck. It is going to be close, and I think it's going to be very close. And here comes Rico. Rico finishing it off for Sonia Duval-Scott as well. 2:03 there for Efrakim on the line, so he will be in 5th place on the day. Now, what is happening? It's going to be, I think, Schleck who will be the leader, but I don't know. Oh, goodness, it's 2:16. We'll leave it to the timekeepers. It's close.
In fact, short of a tie, it couldn't have been closer. Frank Schleck had started the day 1:50 behind Cadel Evans, and he'd beaten him by 1:49. His heroic ride up to Otxoa had come up 1 second short of taking the yellow jersey.
1 second. It's just one ridiculous second. Should have done a sprint, but yeah, I should have done this, I should have done this, and in the end, I'm just disappointed that having the yellow jersey is something big, and getting it in the mountains even better, and I guess that's life.
Cadel Evans was as moved as Schleck was demoralised. The first Australian to stand on the podium in Paris in 2007, he was beginning to look like the first to make it to the top step.
Oh, I was close to tears lying in the curb yesterday with blood all over me as well. It's a bit of a turnaround of form, that's for sure, but let's see, it's a long way to go yet.
It had been a touching moment for Evans, but he was still injured, don't forget, and touching otherwise it was discouraged.
Tomorrow you have a rest day and then you plan your tactic.